Well, there are many ways to display data, and you have seen some of these before. We may have talked about pie charts. We can talk about a graph like this. You can display data in a bar graph, which will have things like this, or maybe you might even have a histogram, which is basically just a bar graph where all of the bars touch. Or you can even have what's called a scatter plot, which is really just the same as a graph. That's where you plot your different values, and then quite often you might remember this, you find a line of best fit. So this may be all familiar to you. But I'm going to introduce a new, well, maybe it's new. It's new to me. A new type of this new way of displaying data, and it's called, and this might be kind of a funny name, it's called a box and whiskers plot. Now, if that's a name that you find hard to remember, and you might find anything hard to remember because I don't know, it's quite visual to me. It's pretty easy to remember, and when you see it, you'll know why it's called that. So before we can make a box and whiskers plot, we actually have to learn a few other words. So let's start fresh here on a new page. Okay. Okay. So in a box and whiskers plot, what we're trying to show is basically a way of displaying central tendency. And so it's a display of central tendency and the range of a set of values. Okay, so what's range? What does that mean? So if I give you a set of values like this, 31, 42, 47, okay, this will be nice and tidy, this one. The range of values is from 26 to 63. Okay, central tendency. If you calculate that, you'll see that it's actually 39. So you have a range of 39. It's the difference between these two things. Okay? And all that means is that in my entire set of data, there is a range of 39 from the minimum, 26, to the maximum, 63. Okay? That's the range. Second thing we need to look at is what's called quartiles. And what a quartile is it before we took the median of a set of data, and all we did is we said, well, let's find the middle value. Now in this case we have an even number, so we found the two middle values and we'd average them, and we'd say, okay, the median is 47 plus 52 divided by 2, which equals 99 over 2, which is 49.5, and that's what our median would be. And so all we were doing there is we were basically just taking a set of data and we're dividing it into two pieces. Everything below the median and everything above the median. Well, a quartile, as you can imagine, like a quarter, is just dividing a data set into 4. So, in this particular data set, we've divided it into 2 already, and some would call this the second quartile. The first quartile is actually found by just finding the median of this first half. So that's going to be the median here. These are two numbers, so again we need to find the mean again. So the mean of those is going to be First quartile is going to be the mean of the two median numbers, which is going to be 36.5. And as you can probably guess, the third quartile is just the median of the second half. So here's our first quartile, and here's the third quartile. And so that's going to be actually, because there's two medians here, it's going to be the mean of those. So 119 over 2. So there's your first and third quartile. Now, a box in Whiskers Plot is this. What I do is I create a very basic graph with a y and an x axis. And since my values go from 26 to 63, I'm going to make this nice and neat. And I'm going to start it at 20 and go up to 70. So 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Okay. Well, let's just go to 80 just for the fun of it. Now, here's how we actually draw the box and whiskers plot. Okay. So what I do is I create two ends from the minimum of my range, 26. That's going to be about here. And the maximum, 63, about here. So those are the whiskers, so to speak, of my box and whiskers. And then my box is going to be between the first quartile and the second quartile, so between 36.5 and 59.5. That puts me around here, and 59.5. And I create a box. This is the box of the box and whiskers. And then I just draw a line between the box and the whiskers. And the last thing that I do is I draw the median, which we determined earlier to be, what was it? 47 plus 52 over 2 equals 49.5. So the median right there. And that's it. And that's our box and whiskers plot. Now, all this is really doing is this is an alternative way of showing a set of data. So what I can do in this box and whiskers plot is I can take a look at, okay, so I know the data starts here and it goes to there. That's the breadth of data that's going on. And then most of the data, well actually half of the data, the middle two quarters of that data are in this box. And in the very middle, the median is right in the middle of the box. So it's very easy for me to visualize that data. Now, the nice thing about a box and whiskers plot is if I get another set of data, and we won't go through the whole process, but I could get another set of data with a slightly different range, maybe a smaller range. But it may well be that even though it has a smaller range, it actually has the same median. And so, for instance, there's a question in your book that talks about two basketball teams, and those two teams have the same mean height. Okay, so let's just create a little spot here. So team A has a mean height of 2 meters, 200 centimeters, which is mighty tall. It's about 6'6", and so does team B. But we'd actually have to make this 200, something like that. Now they have the same median, but if you look at these teams, actually the yellow team, or so say team B, seems to have a larger range of heights. So they have a few guys that are even taller, and a few that are even shorter than team A. So team A is a whole lot of players of similar height, and Team B is a wider range of players. But in the end, they have the same mean height. So this is just a way of comparing sets of data. And you can have more than two, you can have 3 or 4 or 10 box and whisker plots on a graph, and it's a really good way to compare data.